Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamika Daniel. I'm the Behavioral Health Community Organizer with Greater Richmond STAND, and I'm back for the second half of my advocacy series. This started out as an idea last year between me and my colleague, Olivia, who couldn't make it tonight, but it gained so much traction last year that we decided to bring it back. So, this first topic that we're going to be touching on is advocating for our Black youth. And I have two special guests here with me that agreed to have this conversation with me. And that's Anita Ham from the Tutelage Group and Sam Brown from Peter Paul. So, first, I'm going to introduce Sam Brown. Sam Brown is the Workforce Barrier Navigator. He recently joined the Family and Community Engagement Team at Peter Paul Development Center as the Workforce Barrier Navigator of Z Life, which stands for Leading Individuals to Foundational Employment, which is a pilot program serving the 18 to 26-year-old population in Richmond with navigating barriers that historically affect this group. He is tremendously passionate about this generation of young people and is passionate about his relationship with the community at large. And he welcomes referrals at his email address, which he will give out his information at the end of this. Then we have Anita Ham with the Tutelage Group. Ms. Ham currently serves as the field instructor for bachelor's and master's level social work students at local universities. She mentors youth at Six Points Innovation Center and other local community organizations. Her passion is development and comprehension and interpersonal, and organizational systems. She enjoys seeing students and learners express light bulb moments that transform their vision and practices. Ms. Ham specializes in supportive counseling and training, therapeutic mentoring, psychoeducation for individuals and families related to mental health and medical disorders, and organization planning and development. So, thank you both for joining me. And when me and my colleague was coming up with topics, I really felt that with us coming off of Black History Month and that with everything that has been going on as a whole, that we needed to address that barrier of lack of resources for our Black children, especially with COVID hitting. It's hitting the Black and Brown communities at a very large rate. And I just wanted us to have a conversation about that, a good, honest conversation about that. So the first question I have is, what do you feel are the gaps in resources for youth and emerging youth today? And either one of you can.
Sam, it looked like you was ready, you was on the trigger, but
No, go ahead. I can go second.
okay, I think one of the biggest gaps is honestly the assessment of our communities, meaning knowing the needs of our youth, knowing the needs of our Black and Brown children in the different communities. What do they need? I'm seeing a lot of nonprofits, a lot of organizations are coming up, but the assessment of what the community really needs is one of the largest gaps that we have. And I don't want to jump into any other questions, so I'll let Sam take it away before I go deeper because I'm like, oh, I could address a few, but Sam, let me let you go ahead.
No, I think you definitely set the stage for answering this question, and I think one of the things that I've observed in the last 6 months is that we do have some resources out there. I think the knowledge of those resources is the gap, and I think a lot of the young people who I've talked to, and you talked about in my bio, the 18 to 20 something year old. I mean, they're not aware of some of the programming that is available to them, like the Office of Community Wealth Building and their workforce development program, the Community College Workforce Alliance program. That not only they have money, not only do they have the training programs to help young people to develop into the career paths that they desire, but they also have money to pay for these courses for the young people that we are serving. And so I'm with Z Life at Peter Paul, we're focused on closing that knowledge gap. and being able to connect young people directly, serving as a hub to connect young people to these resources. And once they get into Z Life, it's pretty much you're connected to Caritas, you're connected to Feed More now, you're connected to the Office of Community Wealth Building, you're connected to CCWA, and so on, Mayor's Youth Academy. So there are so many resources that are out there, but I think the community just isn't as aware of them. And I think that's where the work that I'm focusing on doing is bringing the awareness to the services that are available.
Yeah, I second that. Me and Anita had spoke on that briefly before we started, and I was just speaking on me being a parent. Like, you would never believe the amount of things that I found for my children on my own, but it's like this information is out there, but it's like, why is it not reaching certain communities? Like, you could go to a number of other places and you'll see it like plastered everywhere. But when you get to certain communities, like where I'm currently living, and places like that, it's like, it's nothing. Like, if you ain't breaking down doors trying to get this information for yourself and for your kids, it's not coming to you. It's like you said, it was so much free money out there. Insurance paid for so many things for my son, but it's like, I didn't know that. I didn't. I was a young mother, and I didn't know. I was trying to do the best that I could. But it's like, when I started, surrounding myself and, becoming more open-minded to, help. That's that big keyword, help. Once I started doing that, it's like all of that information that you spoke on, Feed More, Caritas, all of these different organizations, even the Office of Community Wealth Building, I didn't know they had all of that stuff going on probably like a year or so ago. And I've been in the East End for about 5 years.
Right. And we talked about that on our community walk that day, about, how, we're right there. And the EDI building is right there on 25th Street. But so many people that right up the street don't even know what all happens inside of that building and what's available to them inside the building.
We don't. The only thing we knew was that was the social services building. That's it.
True.
That's
True.
it. We don't know nothing else.
First thing you see, yeah. Yep. Yep, indeed. And true indeed. And I mean, and there are other organizations that are in the area that I think are gravitating to this hub nature as well. And I think Ms. Ham, she definitely probably can speak to that notion as well, being a part of the social work community.
And so, yes, I didn't want to get ahead in the conversation, because you hit the nail on the head. The lack of knowledge is the biggest one. Then we have the lack of access, and then the lack of the long-term programs that can actually see you through a part of the journey. So I love that you say your program is 18 to 26, because not only are you bridging the gap, but you're also helping them to transition into life, and now you're going into still early adulthood. And it's such a age period where, if you need that foundational knowledge, the foundational wisdom, and the tools and the support of your community, because it's not as easy as we make it to be sometimes. Oh, you just get the education and you go head on. Like you said, there's so many resources that we just don't know about. And even knowing that you can call your insurance company, if you have insurance, to say, what do I qualify for? What programs does my child qualify for? And that's one of the biggest ones that I see, that people have never called their insurance company to see what is accessible and available to them right now. Even Medicare and Medicaid, there are so many things available to you, and even the workforce programs, different things like that. One of the biggest hub organizations that I work with is 6 Points Innovation Center, Saving Our Youth and Community 50/50. So I'm volunteering there all the time, and you just see that you guys need the services, you need the supports, and they have case management in-house to make sure whoever comes there, you get the resources that you need that are unique and specific to you. That's another big thing. Just offering services is one thing, but if it doesn't meet my unique need, then the need still doesn't get met. So there's still a lot of inequities in our healthcare, in our education system. So now, especially places like Peter Paul, who are bridging these gaps, and being that community force that we need to improve and just assist our communities forward.
Yeah, you were spot on with that, help with transitioning. Like, even me as an adult, I didn't work for 10 years. It was a whole big 10-year gap between my last job and me working at Scan. And it's like, even after I got the job, that wasn't it for me, because not only did I have a job, but it's something completely out of what I thought I would be doing. I thought I would be maybe working in a Kroger or Walmart or something like that. So it's like I still needed help with transitioning. So I know our younger youth need that help. And it's like we really have to get those resources out there. And to touch on the next question, why do you think or believe these gaps exist?
If I may, I kind of and you hit on it just now, Ms. Daniels. You know, I think in our school systems, we prepare students for a certain type of experience. We have all these wraparound services. We have all of these folks that are kind of, for lack of a better way to say, in their business, right? You got the school counselor, you have the success center or future center representative, you have the school social worker, you have mentors and teachers and advocates there, and then we graduate them from high school and we send them out into the world um, with none of that, but we've conditioned them to exist in that space. And so I think the question that I saw was, why do you think or believe these gaps exist? I think that these gaps exist, these knowledge gaps exist, because once we graduate, once we turn 18, once we turn 19, the assumption is that you have the wherewithal to advocate for yourself. You have the knowledge that you need to ask the right questions of the right people at the right time. And I think in Z Life, what I've learned is that some of our young people aren't even aware of how to send an email and when to send that email and how to get a response and how to continue to push the system. Bureaucracy is a thing that I think exists in our governmental agencies from top to bottom, federal, state to local. And bureaucracy is kind of how the system works. However, if you are accustomed to from K through 12, someone kind of guiding you through each step and being that advocate for you and speaking up for you, even for your parents at times, I think you become accustomed to expecting that. Once that is not there, and essentially real life is setting in, you're kind of stuck. And some people get in that stuck mode and they stay there because they don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. And God bless our front, I call them frontline workers, our social workers. They're so vitally important to our society. They're so vitally important to our communities, because those are the folks who are talking to people every day. They're talking to the young person in high school or middle school and elementary school. They're talking with the mom, the grandmother, the multi-generational household that's taking care of that child. And they're finding out what these issues are. However, at some point, their jurisdiction kind of, it's limited. And so then we have these young people who aren't getting this knowledge. They aren't seeing these people on a regular basis. And I think that's my belief as to why these gaps are currently existing between resources and the people in the community.
Listen, Sam, spot on, Sam. And I would say the same thing. So understanding that first, advocacy is really putting a voice to, an individual's unique needs, right? So imagine not even knowing that you have a need. And so that's what I'm seeing when students come to me, and when I'm working with them, whether it be me as a school counselor or me in my role volunteering with 6 Points Innovation Center. They don't even know that it's an issue, like you say, not to know how to send an email, not to know how to contact an employer for future employment, or to follow up, or to respond, or even to call to say, I'm not feeling well. Let me do X, Y, Z, so let me contact my insurance company. So some of us, it's so you have the lack of personal knowledge, you have the lack of the knowledge of the resources, but then also you have a lack of who can you call, like who can you reach out to, which providers can you call, and what does that look like on a continuum? Because it's not just K through 12 and then the 18 to 26. You're going to need these services and just resources, period, for the rest of your life. So we're teaching you, and even me as I transition plan with students, I'm preparing you for life after high school. But guess what? It still stops right there at 12th grade. So I'm putting these little things in place. Let's do this. Let's help you get the job. But then I also got to work on the inner person to say, these are the self-management tools, the conflict resolution, this is how you advocate for yourself, the self-advocacy skills. So I think a lot of it is just the personal knowledge that They don't know they have access. They don't know the right people. And we haven't taught them to learn to say, you can actually call this person and it be okay. You can, call this resource. You can call Sam Brown over at Peter Paul to discuss X, Y, and Z. And I think now advocating on another level and ensuring that our kids have this knowledge on a different level. Like, it's one thing to say, here are emergency numbers to call, but it's another thing to develop you in a personal way. You know what I mean? Because I think those are the barriers, is that the personal piece. It's so many. It's, as I think about it and unpack it, like, man, so many little caveats that go along, but they're all needed things, and it still goes back to that knowledge gap, which is what I would say one of the biggest ones.
To piggyback off of what both of you guys said, as I think about it and, everything that I've been through and even what I'm doing with my young children myself, I think about society and those cultural visions and stigmas that, are placed out there for us. Like, your parents coming up, when you're 18, that's it. But at the same time, we're only taught, like you said, K through 12, you graduate, you go to college, but we weren't prepared for, what if that doesn't happen? We weren't prepared for that. So, like, for me, yes, I had every intention of going to college. I was a straight A student, all of that in between, but it's like, it didn't happen. I got pregnant. So now what? I don't have nothing to fall back on, because all I was taught was go to college. That's it. And it's like, now with my son, my oldest son has autism. And it's like, what's going to happen with my son? Like what's going to happen? Like, I'm even struggling with that. Like, I don't even know how to answer for that. So it's like, I can only imagine what some of our other parents are facing without that knowledge. And then with me being an adult, just having Peter Paul taking me to Capital One resource fairs and having people there showing me, hey, you may have been home, but these are transferable job skills. So it's like, we got to get to the point of showing them that it's sometimes college ain't the path for everybody. It's not, and that's perfectly okay. But how do we get those other resources out there to these families? I see you. Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, because you just all in the space that I occupy with these young people that I talk to on a daily basis, and you made a point about college, right? And this conversation that we have with young people all the way through K through 12, particularly 9 through 12, about going to college. And we're talking to a lot of first gen students, right? I worked at VCU in the Aspire program. It's a living learning program that works with young people and takes them out into the Richmond community to do service, learn about the community, learn about the history of Richmond, how we got to where we are. And what I found was even many of them were first geners. They made it to VCU. They didn't know what they wanted to major in. They didn't really know why they were there. But they just were told that college is the answer. Many of them, after being at VCU for a year or two, maybe three, realized, like, you know what? I really wanted to work as a plumber. I really wanted to be a mechanic. I really like doing hair and nails. But society, or what I was taught, was that I need to go to college to be successful. Well, now that I'm here, now I've accumulated some close to $50,000-$60,000 in student loan debt, right? Because I'm first gen. I don't have a rich uncle to call. I think Mitt Romney said one time when he was running against President Obama, just call your rich uncle and tell him to pay for college. That's not most people's story. And so, but at the same time, we're still pushing everybody through this funnel that college, 4-year college is the answer. And they're missing out on community college. And I talked to a young lady from Armstrong. She's one of the first Z-Life participants. She's doing well. She's acquired her security certificate. She's working for a company that is contracted by the city government and the state government to secure buildings and parking lots that belong to the government. And she was just telling me, I didn't even know that there was another way for me to get certified and get trained to do something that I love doing. I'm a security minded person. I'm looking at the door when I'm sitting somewhere, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, watching what's going on. This is just how I'm built. And someone told me I needed to go to college, but I really don't need to go to college now. And then she went on to tell me, you know, in the community, people have kind of looked down on someone who goes to J. Sargent Reynolds. It's like, oh, everybody goes to Reynolds. But that person at Reynolds is obtaining certifications and training and education at a lower rate, expense rate per semester, but they're getting what they need to do what it is that they are called to do. I talk to young people about living on purpose, passion, and power, right? You pursue that thing that you are passionate about. You are on purpose, you're doing it intentionally, so you have some purpose, you know why you want to do it, you enjoy it, and then from that you obtain the power that you need to be able to succeed. And when you go to training programs or certificate programs like the Community College Workforce Alliance, or J. Sargent Reynolds, or if you live out further out into the Chesterfield County, South Virginia area, you probably do something like John Tyler. You're setting yourself up for success professionally while minimizing the amount of debt that you're accumulating while you're doing it. And that, it kind of broke my heart that she said that that's a thing within the community. Young people would probably rather not attend J. Sargent Reynolds than go to Reynolds and be, I guess, was considered cliche to go. But that's the opportunity, right? That's where the growth is. And so I think that's something that I'm working on. I'm passionate about working with Jessica Anderson over at the high school recruitment department over there at Reynolds, with making sure that we getting this message out to these young people. Like, yeah, you might not know what you want to do, but you may know that you want to take some courses. You want to get some training. You want to get closer to something, or maybe be introduced to something that you don't know that you're good at, or don't know that you're passionate about. And I think that's key. That 4-year thing, you know, I had to do all over again. I played college football at Virginia State, and I was trying to play college football. When I think back, like, man, whew, boy, I had to walk on. And man, I had to pay my way, and that was in-state tuition with Pell Grant money, with a mom in college and an older brother in college, and it still turned out to be a heavy price that I'm still paying to this day. So, so definitely, I think changing the narrative on some of those nuances will help too.
Yeah. So that leads us to, how can parents and caregivers learn or find out what resources would best benefit or interest the youth in their care?
So I definitely think it starts with knowing our youth, talking to our youth, not around them, not above them, not below them, talking to our youth. What are some things that you're interested in? And if you don't know, like he just said, all those wonderful programs. You got the ACE Center, over at Hermitage and Highland Springs. You got these Wilson's Workforce Program that can expose them to things that they've never been exposed to before, to not only get them on track with career-minded stuff, but just the other things that they may be interested in life. And I think another thing we have to address is the stigmas that we place on our children. This is what you should do, or this is the best job, or this is the thing that you should do. But they have to find what's most fitting for them, or they won't really pursue it. So you got kids, like Sam just said, they go to college, they don't know why they're there, they don't know why they're doing it. To reduce that, help them find that personal passion, those things that are innate, that they do, that they love, so that they can grow in that area, build in that area, and ultimately thrive in that area. So the first thing I would say is talk to the student, talk to your child. What are you interested in? Even if it's something that your family has never seen, never experienced, they can say, I want to, play ice hockey, and you guys have never been out to a hockey rink. Figure out, how can we get you there? How can we help you learn this new thing that you're interested in? Or who can we connect you with so that you can be exposed to it, to learn more about it? And then the second thing is, like I say, sometimes parents don't know. For those who do have insurance, you can call your insurance company to say, what do we qualify for? What does my child qualify for? Or even as a parent, if the parent needs service, with my insurance, what are the programs available to me? They can send you a whole list of things that are accessible to you right then and there. And then another thing, just like Sam, Peter Paul, these places are resources heavy. Like every resource you need, they have. 6 Points Innovation Center, same thing. Go to these hubs, get the resources. Our favorite thing nowadays for everybody is Google. programs in in your state, in your city, and especially if you want to find something that may be low cost or free. Eventbrite, different things, because now it's not just one way to find the information. There are multiple ways, and just exercising the right that we do have and the power that we have to say, I can do some things too. Though it be challenging sometimes, and though it be frustrated to feel like you're doing it alone, but if you go to the hub, you're going to get that directed assistance with someone. But if you're home, you're by yourself, trust the old Google.
Yeah. You're Anita, you are so right. Just me being on a daily basis with my sons. Like I'm 6'2". My sons, they're coming up like right behind me. So we could be walking and the first thing they'll say, oh, he playing basketball. So like you say, it's what people think they should be doing. Or it's like you're tall. I done had somebody tell me I was tall for nothing because I didn't engage in the stereotypical things that they have set aside for African Americans or people of a certain height or a certain muscular structure. And it's like I had to take my own advice because I didn't know what one of my sons liked to do. Like he came home one day from MLK and was like, Mom, can you come to my soccer game? And I'm like, your soccer game? And I'm like, you like soccer? And he like, yeah. My baby didn't know how to play, but I was still there. And it's like that's all our children want is for parents and caregivers and or whoever to be, excited and motivate them to do what they like to do. Regardless of if you think they're good at it or not, be right there cheering them on. And he continued to play because he realized that's not what he wanted to do, but he stepped outside of his box and he tried something different. He doesn't like the typical stuff. He doesn't like to play football. He doesn't like to play basketball. He don't even like soccer, but he do know he wants to go to college. But that comes from him going to Peter Paul and him going to different campuses and having different fraternities coming to Peter Paul. So he's getting experiences and he's getting reasons as to why he wants to go. And he knows what he wants to do, but that's why I keep saying he, because it's his choice. It's not, oh, you got to go to college. This is what he's decided. So yeah, those conversations, because us coming up, it wasn't, but what you want to do is you need to go to college. And when I didn't go to college, for so many years, I had low self-esteem because I felt like a failure to my parents because all of my other siblings went to college because I thought that's what we had to do. But it's like now in hindsight, I'm good. I'm doing what I love and I get paid to do it. So as Sam said, that stigma that's been placed on some of our children and our communities got to take that off. Like when I say it's no better feeling than me getting up, not feeling like I have to work. I'm working, but this is what I was doing before I started at SCAN. I was already advocating. I was already researching and all this other stuff. I'm just getting paid for it now, and that's the best feeling in the world. So exactly what you said, Sam. Like just taking them stigmas off of our children when they decide they want to do something other than what you think they should be doing. So, what ways can parents and caregivers find the resources that do exist within and outside their communities? And you've been speaking on this for most of the conversation, Anita. Both of y'all on mute.
I was like, Sam, I'll let you take it away because I feel like
No, you and she was right. You've been hitting on those touch points the entire conversation, really, of where I think touch points that are accessible, right? It's not outside of the purview. It's right there. I think you've been talking about it really all night, and I mean we're I guess for some folks introducing Peter Paul to that conversation in terms of being a hub and being a resource to folks in the community. Because some folks don't realize they know us for our academic enrichment for third through eighth grade students, right? They know us for that. That's how the Coleman Center was started. That's what we've been doing for 40 years. But we have this family and community engagement team now that is led by a sister by the name of Kim Young. She's a social worker by trade and training. And so the work that we do, and we have folks at community liaison and Sister Shamir Miles and community advocacy and connectivity with Sister Chu, Sharika Chu, and then we have our volunteer coordinator and Michael Bledsoe. And so that's a part of Peter Paul that's being kind of reintroduced to the community. But there are other organizations in the area that are doing that kind of work, that are doing the kind of hub work that we are modeling ourselves to do. And I think, one of the ways that, and it's really it's accessible. The ways that you can go about finding resources is to connect with your student's local school system. If your students in RPS at different grade levels, there are people who are connected with us, right? The service providers, the community advocates, the community service providers, that they know about us. They've heard about us. It's a good place to start. And what we're doing now because of COVID, I think, the social media platforms, right? If you follow, a city government organization, you may find yourself being introduced to these organizations and these resources. So follow them on social media. Use the platforms of Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter to get some more information. We talked about Google. Google is as good a tool as any. I mean, you can reach it on your phone. And Anita talked about that. It's like it's right there on your phone. You can Google things and just ask the question. But I think those are accessible touch points. I think Anita has been, like I said, she's been highlighting all conversation.
And me just being a parent, I will say that one of the ways that was easier for me was finally deciding to be involved in what my son was involved in. So it's like for the longest time, I was sending my son to Peter Paul, like you said, for the educational piece. So all I knew is my son was going to Peter Paul. So a lot of times, we will have our children in programs, but we don't know like the outside of what's going on, but not really the in-depth of what's going on. And I feel like as parents, we can sometimes miss, these resources because we just think they only offer, what's at face value. And it's like I didn't want to be involved. It's like, what do I need to be involved for? He's going to Peter Paul for our after school program. That was it. But then I realized, they started sending forms home for programs. And it's like, oh, they really want parents to go, they provide daycare. Because that's usually like a barrier for some of us. Like we don't have childcare. So it's no point in going when we know we have a crying child or we know we have, children that's going to be running around. So we decide not to go. So it's like, okay, they removed that excuse. So I don't have an excuse as to why I can't go see, what's going on. And upon me going there, I realized Peter Paul had so much stuff going on. And I realized that not only did they care about my son, they cared about my whole entire family. So as you stated, as both of you stated about their transitioning and just not giving somebody something that may benefit them for like a day or two. You give out the food, you give out the gift cards, but eventually I met people who they seen potential in me. They seen things in me I didn't see in myself. So it inspired me to, okay, I want to do more. I want to be more for my children and, a high school dropout with a GED. Like I want more. And they realized I could get more. Even though I live in public housing, I can get more and I deserve more. So they started plugging me in, as I was saying, with, the Capital One job fairs and, all of these other things, giving me platforms to speak and, hey, we think you'll be a good fit here, just paying attention to what I'm offering and hey, you'll be a good fit here. And it was because of them and giving me an opportunity to speak from a parent's perspective at an event that I'm now here in my position. So had it not been for those organizations like 6 Points and Peter Paul, like they have so much going on outside of helping the children. Like they want to help the family too. But I think sometimes we just get stuck in, oh, our kid, my child going to this program, that's it. They're focusing on the child. But just, I think being more open-minded, or those flyers that get stuck in your door, like don't ball them up, throw them in the trash. Like I had to get out of that. Like I had to be, more open-minded to receiving that help, and it didn't make me less than, because I think where we come from typically, when you start to, receive things, you may feel like you're less than. Like I felt like that for a long time. Like I'm getting all this help. Like I'm not I'm not on my job. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a parent. But it's like now I'm in a place where I can do. And it's because I received that help. So I just think, being open minded, paying more attention to those community hubs, like both of you guys said, that's in your communities, and actually seeing what they have to offer instead of just the, what meets on the outside.
I think another big thing is that you can actually call these, so you can call 6 Points Innovation Center, you can call Peter Paul and just say, what programs do you have available, or what's available at your organization? And they don't mind going down every list of everything. Because even supporting your child is supporting the family in a way. So where all of these programs really seek to support the entire unit. So a family is a unit, but a part of the unit is the child or the parent or the sibling. So we want to take care and support the whole family. So in doing that, you're supporting the legacy of that family. So I would say, call Peter Paul, call 6 Points Innovation Center. What programs are there? And like you say, don't just get so accustomed to saying they only do this thing, and really being open to asking, because some of us aren't comfortable asking, other too many questions. We're not going to ask too many questions, but really asking those questions really help us, to get the answers we need and to be able to be exposed to the new information that is out there.
Yeah, so as we're touching on all of these resources, what can parents and caregivers do to advocate for the resources that are not available in their communities?
I think that's a great question. And Sam kind of hit on it earlier. Talk to your local community, I would say community, but also your state and your governmental agencies. The biggest thing is to write these letters. You can write your Congress people, you can write your local and state people to say, hey, this is the need in my community. What are some ways we can go about getting this need met? But then also coming to these hubs to say, this is a gap in services that I'm seeing as a parent. How can we collaborate to address this need in our community? But then also going to the school system and talking to the school social worker or counselor, or who's ever their point of contact, to say, I'm noticing this need. Like, what is a way to go about maybe getting this need met? Or is there a way you can point me in the right direction of whom I can speak with? Because sometimes it's about connectivity. So if we communicate, I strongly believe that collaboration is currency. That's my motto. So if I collaborate with you just to get some information, now all the stuff I know about Peter Paul, even from Sam, guess what? Whoever I can send this information to is out there today. So if parents would just tap into these different people that they may already have access to, but then also going back, like say social media, going back to Google to seeing, who are those head people that I need to contact directly? Can I find a name somewhere? Or do I see anyone doing this type of work in another community that we can figure out how to do it in my community?
100% agree with that. That is dead on, I think. And you definitely hit on the accessibility piece when you talk about who you already contacting, who you already connected to. In our virtual sessions, our Tuesday lives that we're doing on Peter Paul's Instagram page, I'm gonna put a little shameless plug in. Z Life, we're doing the Tuesday live, second Tuesday of every month. We have our next one coming up next week. We're going to be going live with the Mayor's Youth Academy, right? And they're going to be talking about their summer workforce development program. Now, that's as simple as 30 minutes, but that's as simple as following Peter Paul on Instagram. Hitting the button at the top when it's highlighted and you can see it live. Everybody that's active on Instagram, when somebody's live on Instagram, it pops up where the Insta stories are. Hit that, boom. Now you're accessing all this information about what's available to your 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old for this summer. If you couldn't think of anything prior to that, now you have access to that information virtually. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to make a phone call even. You can even type in the comment section, hey, can someone contact me? Or send a DM, and I think that's the work of some of the folks that are on the help side, trying to find ways to connect with the community and connect these resources and make it accessible for these folks to know what they have available to them and what's right around the corner. But I think also it's just using a medium that we use for entertainment, right? We use these social media platforms for entertainment. And I think now we're realizing we can use these platforms also to share information and get it out as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And I hope to see a lot of folks log in next week. High school students, RPS, I need to see you. Shout your school out. I'm a Huguenot High School graduate, class of 2003. I want to hear you shout out your high school because we got prizes. We have, not only do we have information for you, but we're going to have prizes and ways for you to connect with the community. And we're going to talk about in 1 week, one of our sessions is going to be your squad. Who's on your squad? A lot of times we find out even when you get a college degree, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. It's about who you've connected to. And Tamika, you were talking about that a couple minutes ago. It's like being connected to these organizations helped me shape myself into where I wanted to go, ultimately opening some doors for myself because I was connected with this particular group of folks. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. Actually, that's April session. We're going to talk about that. Is your squad helping you to promote your forward progress in life? And I think that's a key component that a lot of young people aren't even aware of. It's not necessarily about all the college degrees and certifications and this and that, all the paper. A lot of people have paper. A lot of people have papers on the wall that say this or that, but they don't necessarily have the connections with people. They are not connected or plugged into some of these resources. So I think that's something that caregivers and young people can add to their repertoire, making sure I'm connected with some folks and staying plugged in, not missing out on the conversations with the school board that are happening virtually, not missing out on conversations that are happening with our legislators and our lawmakers and our policy writers that are happening as a result of these organizations tapping in and advocacy that they do. So, yep, definitely.
Yeah, you both were spot on. Just me being a parent and seeing it, it's like, it kind of starts, from the inside. Like I think the parents and caregivers, they really got to feel like, their voice matters. And I'm here to tell you guys, your voice matters. For a long time, I didn't think my voice mattered. Like, they don't want to hear from me. We get that, but they don't care about us. They ain't giving us no money, they ain't putting no money in here to our communities. We ain't getting no resources over here. They don't care about what we got to say. But I'm here to tell you, they do. Your voice matters. Your voice is important. I don't care if you're in the room with just you and one other person. Speak. Speak up for what you need. Speak up for what your children need, because I learned that, like even now, like I'm a hood girl, but I'm in the room with the best of them, and they actually pay attention to what I got to say now. So it's like, just you empower yourself. Like your voice matters. All our voices matter, and that for the most part, that's all they want to see. They want to see us speak up for what we want, because there's plenty of money out there, plenty of resources out there. I found it the hard way, but that's why I'm here now, so that so many other people don't have to go through what I went through to get what they need for themselves and their children. So y'all pretty much talked on this too, but this is the question specifically for that. In the work that you do, how do you help families get connected to the resources they need? Sam or Anita, whichever.
Listen, so it basically, we've talked about it throughout. So for me, it's basically doing that formal assessment. Hey, where are you? How can we help you get to where you want to go as an individual, as a family? So for me at the Tutelage Group, we're a behavioral health educational consulting group where I'm the owner and founder. But for me, I also do school counseling. So that's where I get to give back between there and Community 50/50 over at 6 Points, I'm mentoring. I'm right there, like, what are the needs? What is going on? How can I help? How can I be of service to you and help you access these things that you need? So for the most part, whether it's directing families, learning about all these resources, because the same thing, you have to learn about the resources in order to know they're there. So as we learn, and we just added to a list, hey, this one's still there, but I'm constantly checking and updating. Is this one still available? Because, sometimes, you have something on the list and they are no longer accessible. So just continue to learn about the new community resources, continue to add and connect and collaborate with these other organizations to provide better services and to really equip our youth and families with the services that they need. So that's it.
I think and that's what we're in the business of doing, helping families and connecting those folks to resources. And Anita hit it on the head. You talk, we have conversations, speaking up, being honest. And I know in the Black community, I'm just gonna be honest. In the Black community, I lived in Creighton Court as a kid, lived in the Essex Village, lived in what was now called Henrico Arms, used to be called Darbytown Meadows when I was a kid. I'm living back in what they call the Hole off of Waverly. I lived in all of these neighborhoods growing up. And one of the things that was always prevalent in our community was don't tell my business, right? Don't tell my business. Stay out of my business. If they stay out of my business, the better. The problem is with that concept is if you're not sharing your story, if you're not sharing your needs, then essentially that part of the conversation or that part of the narrative is lost. So as a community, we have to take that stigma off of talking about what we need as showing weakness, but actually talking about what we need as showing strength and advocacy for ourselves. I need better education for my young people. I need better paying jobs for myself. I need better access to transportation. I need better access to housing. I need better access to building permits. Right. I have a business I want to start. I want to do nails. I want to open up my own nail shop in my community. I don't want to go over there where they are. I don't want to move over there where they are. I want to open up my business in my community. How do I get access to building permits? How do I get access to folks that can train me on how to develop myself as a business owner, an entrepreneur, right? You have to speak up to say that. You have to speak up, and you can't go silent or go dull on the narrative that yes, some folks are overlooking those communities. Yes, some people who are writing policy, some people who've been elected, they are overlooking these communities. And the only reason they're overlooking is because some of the folks on the other side of the community, they're screaming loud. My roads are messed up. Fix them. I'm a taxpaying citizen. My roads are messed up. Fix them. We have to have that same kind of vigor and that same kind of energy to be able to advocate for ourselves, and that's the strength that we have as a community. I think that's something we can tap into, and that's something that I'm an advocate for myself. They call me Brother Malcolm sometimes because I'm always screaming like my hair is on fire. James Baldwin said to be relatively conscious in America and be a person of color is to be in a constant rage. But we take that in and we become tenacious with that energy. So that's what we are. That's what we have to be.
Yes, I fully agree. And my piece on it, like I always come with the parent spin, but it's always, it starts with yourself first. Like, we're talking about advocating for our Black youth, but the only way we're going to be able to do that effectively is if we advocate for ourselves first. And it's like like a domino effect. My children, they started seeing me speaking out for myself. I need some help. I'm a single mother of 4 children. I need help. I can't show my boys what I need them to know. I need some Black men to come step in and, help my boys. Like this is what I need. And upon me doing that, taking better care of myself, like you said, the stigma on, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Getting therapy, not letting nobody tell me, the first thing when you say you're getting therapy, well, what's wrong with you? Like, ain't nothing wrong with me. I just want to be a better me. And me being a better me, me doing speaking engagements, my children watching me, like it's rubbing off on them. My children telling me they're proud of me. And now my son, he done got encouraged to run for vice president because he's seeing mommy do X, Y, and Z. So yes, you know, we got to
Come on,
advocate
young
for,
brother, do that thing,
yes,
man.
like,
Let's do it. Come on.
like, you know, we're speaking on advocating for our Black youth, but, you know, they got to see it from us too. Because it's like, how we going to tell them what they need to be doing when we ain't doing it ourselves? Like, I'm trying to tell my son, you need to be doing this, but I'm working a hole in the wall job. I'm miserable every day. I come home from work. I'm yelling at everybody. So it's like, you know, they always say, do what I say and not as I do. But trust me, they do what you do. And, you know, I learned that the hard way. So, you know, just me being a better me has helped me to advocate for my children more, because I'm in a healthy mind frame and I can give my all now to my children and what they need. And like I said, being open, you don't know everything all the time. And I think where we come from, like you said, Sam, like a lot of times, and can't nobody tell me nothing about how I run my household. Don't come telling me nothing about my kids. But it's like, we need to hear that sometimes. I had a trusted friend come and tell me that my son told her, I can't talk to my mom, she don't listen to me. And I know that happens a lot. Like you said earlier, Anita, don't talk above them, don't talk beneath them, have a conversation with them. And I wasn't doing that because I was so used to, you know, your opinion don't matter. You're a child, I pay the bills. And that's how it is. Like, just being honest, that's exactly how it is for some of our children coming up and for some of us when we came up. So hearing somebody come and tell me that, I was ready to go in, but then I was like, this person loved me, they love my son. And obviously my son felt comfortable enough to go to them. So mama needed to check herself. And that was the first step of me sitting down with my teenage son and actually listening to the issues he had with me. And when I say it's gotten 100% better with me and him, and he still has his space where he talks about things with, you know, another person outside of me because he's more comfortable. But, you know, it's just getting out of those, you know, those certain stigmas. Like, we really got to listen to our children, because trust me, we say they don't know what they want, but some of them know exactly what they want. You're just not listening. So
You hit on you. I wanted to say you did hit on two spaces right there, Tamika. You talked about mental health, the stigma on mental health in our community, and then you talked about generational trauma in a sense, right? You hit on both of those two things that are kind of at a, I don't want to call them an undercurrent to make them subordinate to the issues, but essentially they kind of drape the issues that are facing our community, the stigma on dealing with mental health issues, generational trauma that's passed down, and it just keeps getting passed down because nobody thinks that they need to go talk to someone. They need to go deal with those issues within themselves. You do have the wounded bleeding all over the non-wounded who become then wounded because they're affected by the trauma of those that they trusted. And you spoke about something that is huge in our community, and that's big to hear, because we're what are we, millennials, Tamika? Like, we're in our 30s, we're millennials. Like, so this whole narrative that, you know, children are to be seen and not heard, right? Go sit down, you don't know what you're talking about. And switching that narrative to, let me hear from you, because things are going on in your world that I need to know about. And there are things that I'm doing that is affecting your world that I need to know about. And there's some changes that may need to be made and some adjustments that may need to be made so that you can be whole. I may have been wounded, but you need to be whole. And you hit on that. I think that wasn't like a part of the notes in the questions, but I think that's, Anita, I see you smiling, like, you know, it's there. It's there.
Yes, because we need to understand that trauma isn't drama, it's an issue that needs to be worked through. And that's what we've been passing down. It's like, don't bring that drama over here, don't bring that. But that's stuff that needs to be worked out so some things can be worked into you so you can be whole. So, Sam, yes, that is it. Y'all got me finna say amen up here.
Look, you saw me do my dip. I did my Baptist dip. Oh, come on.
Yeah, that was, when I said that was a hard pill for me to swallow. Her and them tell me my son say he can't talk to me, but it was needed. It was really needed, because now I know my son can come talk to me and he's comfortable with telling me everything that's going on with him, as opposed to him relaying those built up frustrations of not being able to talk to mommy outside of my household. And I live in Fairfield Court, and he's 14 years old, and it is so much he could be getting into, and I'm glad that he's not. So yes, pay attention to the children or any of the children that's in your care, because they know what they want. They really do. And in so many words, they are telling you. But we just got to be open to listening to them and making sure we let them know that their voices are valued, because it starts teaching them to advocate for themselves. And we need that, because like you said earlier, you get those people advocating for you, like you going to college, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to school from grades K through 12, and you're going to go to college. Got a guidance counselor, okay, in the 10th grade, we need to get you on this path. Do you know what college you're going to go to? But they ain't had no conversation with the child on nothing.
And I think that's another big part. Listen, I know we're coming close to our time, but listening to our children is empowering them. That's empowering them to speak up for themselves and to learn that their voice matters, and that what they are experiencing or feeling, they'll be able to advocate, meaning putting a voice to their unique needs. So we have to get them to speak out so they can understand what's happening, and then they can intervene appropriately, whether the parent or the teacher or the counselor community is there or not. They'll have those skills. So that it's just a starting place. So if we really allow our kids to speak up and speak out, then we can help them further, and then they can ultimately help them empower themselves as well.
So, so are there any other resources that you guys would like to highlight or share with the viewers?
I think with we've been hitting on them all throughout, I think, the session, but tapping into those organizations like www.ocwb, right, .gov, or www.peterpaulrva.org, and just tapping into those, those the feeding programs of Feed More and all the folks that are doing that across the city, and the help that we're getting from the assistance that we're getting from the school system now, especially RPS. Has several resources in terms of adult education, continuing education, folks that have gotten to a certain point and they got stuck and they didn't finish yet, but they can come back and finish up. The success program that they have over there with RPS, as well as talking about some of the other resources that surround J. Sargent Reynolds. They have a department that deals with IEPs and 504s that people carry over from their K through 12 education. So it's kind of like we have these resources that we've been talking about, but then these resources have like sub resources within themselves that help them operate and help them be better assistance to the community as well.
Agreed. So Sam hit some great ones. And of course, you're going to always need some mental health. So you're going to have your RBHAs. You're going to have 6 Points Innovation Center. You're going to have, another great resource is stand.org. So if it's educational resources, if it's, how to intervene at different times, some non-crisis lines, those things are out there. And even if it is a crisis, you can just go back to Google, say, crisis help Richmond, Virginia, or wherever your city is. Sometimes you have to just call it like that. Even sometimes your local, if you need to call 911 for a resource, they can ultimately help too. But there are all your other organizations that you can call, NAMI, so NAMI, regarding your mental health resources and things like that as well.
Okay. So thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. So much information and knowledge. And I just want to say thank you for taking out the time of your day to come and talk with me. And that will wrap things up. My name is Tamika Daniel, and I just want to say thank you again to Anita and Sam for being on here. We'll be back March 24th with Advocacy and Education Part 2. So thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you all. Thank you.
Have a good one.